So today we have a really awesome guest. I don't think that he needs much of a introduction in the industry. I think he's pretty well known. He's been in for, I don't know how many years at this point, but I'd say if I had to guess, probably 30 plus.
Since 1976.
Well, there you go. So 40 plus years.
That's almost, oh my God, I hate to say it out loud. I'm the old guy in the room now.
These are the guys who like to hang out with, the old G's, you know? But yeah, today we have a super awesome guest. So just let me do the introduction to Paul Bello. He owns, I think it's, the PJB Pest Management Consultants, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you do a lot. So why don't you just kind of just tell us how you got in the industry, Paul, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay, so way back. I mean, I'll take you right from the very beginning. I mean, I'm the middle of 5 kids in our family, and my oldest sister went to dental hygienist school, which I don't even know if that school exists anymore, but I know that was a lot of money. My older brother went to Syracuse University, and then here comes me, did my SATs and everything, and sent out college applications, but that pretty much tapped out my parents. So when it came time for me to go to college, there wasn't money for me. So I'm like, oh my God, all right, so what I'll do is I'll go work. All along the time, I was working at my dad's gas station, working on cars and stuff, but I wanted a more clean-cut kind of job, so I was working at Geico Insurance before you even heard of Geico. And a lot of people don't know that Geico stands for Government Employees Insurance Company. So that was in Woodbury on Long Island and in New York. And it was a snowy day. I had a Jeep Cherokee, a 2-door 4-wheel drive. I'm on Northern State Parkway in the snow, bumper to bumper. And I'm figuring out in my head, going to college part-time, 2 classes per semester, how long that's going to take. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I put it in 4-wheel drive, drove over the median, drove home, and called in and resigned, gave my 2-week notice. So that January, I enrolled at State University of New York at Farmingdale in biology. I thought you guys are probably too young to even know. I don't know if you know who Jacques Cousteau is.
The name sounds familiar, but no.
Okay. Did you ever watch SpongeBob?
Yes.
Okay, so on SpongeBob, you hear that voiceover guy says, "So today they docked the Calypso." Yeah, that's where that comes from. Okay, so Jacques Cousteau was this French PhD oceanographer kind of guy, maybe an ichthyologist. I don't know exactly what his degree is in, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Maybe I want to go do that. So and that was one of the majors. Well, on Monday morning, all the biology students sat in a class called Topics in Bio. And it was right before lunch. And this little guy comes in. It was Dr. Frischman, if you ever heard of him, right? So I'm an ex-Frischman student. And he's had this brown paper lunch bag. And he said, I'm going to sell you guys cookies. And the first cookie, and I don't know if it was like chocolate chips or Oreo cookies, but the first cookie sold for 5 cents. And the last cookie sold for like $1.25 or $1.35. Now, I want you thinking about this. That is 1975-ish. Minimum wage was like $1.75, $1.85 an hour. And a college kid bought the last cookie for like $1.25 or $1.35. It's a lot of money, right? So Frischman says, I just taught you the law of supply and demand. And here's the thing. I teach pest control technology. He said, if you go into my program, you can get a job right now as a technician for $10 an hour or more. I heard the $10 an hour or more. I'm paying for my own college, right? So I went down, talked to him right after that 1-hour class and switched my major immediately to that and got a job. My first job was at Suburban Exterminating, which was in Smithtown right near my house. And it was great. And I've been doing pest control ever since. Entomology was a pre-med major. So could I get into medical school when I graduated at Georgia? Because it was a 2-year school there. And then we transferred. We had a deal to go to the University of Georgia and be full juniors and not like a freshman and a half, like when you transfer to another college. And yeah, but I didn't want to go overseas. to do that. So I started working. I graduated Georgia, went back to New York, and my first big job was technical director of a little company I like to call Rent-A-Kill, which was like, okay, they gave me a company car, and I think my salary was $25,500, which was a lot of money back then. You know, I was in high cotton. I mean, we use Rent-A-Kill library books. I have some on the shelves, you know, my other office room over there, the cockroach book from Rent-A-Kill and stuff. And, you know, this was like, wow, this was a dream job. So I took that job, and I had an office in Garden City, Long Island, and in New York, and also in Mamaroneck, which was upstate New York, you know, Westchester County. So I spent a lot of time in that company car. My dad said they gave you a company car because they expect you to drive it. And I only stayed in that job for about 14 months. And I'll tell you why.
So if you haven't heard about Gorilla Desk yet, it's a super sick software. It's actually made by one of my really close friends, Chris Mareshi. So Chris built Gorilla Desk to help streamline his own personal business over 10 years ago. But now Gorilla Desk is used by over 4,000 companies. And today it's become one of the most premier platforms in our industry. So what's really unique about Gorilla Desk is that it's a simple all-in-one solution that's really easy for your team to use. Gorilla Desk offers a seamless onboard experience and best-in-class support with no additional cost. It's all included in your subscription. Inside the software, you'll find a whole suite of features. Scheduling, invoicing, routing, and sales pipelines, integrated VoIP, text messaging, and pretty much all the automation you're going to need, and much, much more. So if you guys are still relying on paper or spreadsheets or fighting with an old software, I highly recommend that you guys check out Gorilla Desk. So we have a link in our description. Click on that, and it'll take you right to their free trial. Now let's get back to the show.
One of the things that Rent-A-Kill did is they came to the United States to grow by acquisition. They were commercial only type company. So what they did was they had bought some companies in New York that were union companies, and the union contract made it so that all the employees had to be unionized. Well, you know what union technicians don't do? They don't work after 5, and they don't work on weekends. So when we had to go do German cockroaches in Chinese restaurants in downtown New York, you know, on Friday night or Saturday, guess who was doing it? Me, because I'm not a union employee. I'm on salary. And then they had some commercial account VPs, you know, or VIP type people that needed termites done. And they don't do termites, but I had years of experience doing termites. I had my termite equipment. I went down there, and I'm like, started thinking to myself, I'm doing all this overtime work, you know, using my own equipment and stuff. I might as well do this for myself. So I resigned and started my company. And when I started my company, I bought there was a company called York Pest Control Supply, or York Chemical. And the salesman was a man named Bob Poirier. I remember him. I bought a 200-gallon rig with a 8-horsepower Briggs & Stratton 10-gallon-a-minute pump, 300 foot of half-inch hose, and that was to do termite work. Well, luckily for me, gypsy moths hit that year in a big way, and people were saying, hey, can you spray our trees? Because I don't know if you're familiar with gypsy moths, but you know, if you don't spray your trees, by the end of July, beginning of August, your trees look like wintertime. And if you sprayed half the tree, this half would have leaves, and that half wouldn't. It was unbelievable. Those caterpillars start about this big. They grow to about this big. And you can, when they're chewing on the leaves at night, you can hear the crunch, crunch, crunch. And their fecal pellets falling through the leaves sound like rain, right? It's amazing. So I told people, look, I can spray your trees, but this thing I can probably only spray about 35 feet high. They said, we don't care because nobody's coming. Nobody's coming. You have to save our trees. So I sprayed trees that year with that rig. I had so many customers. I made enough to buy my first big tree spray truck. And I have a picture of it somewhere parked. I brought it home. It was like late January. I spent all my money on that truck. It was an F600 dump truck with a flatbed body on it, you know, this giant tank with a 300-foot, 3/4-inch reel on it, and a Wisconsin 4-cylinder, 47 horsepower electric start motor and everything. I drove to a place called Esco, which at the time was owned by a man named Al Lane, and now it's run by a man named Jerry Sluker, a very nice guy. Drove it to Mary Ann's house, parked it across the street from 3 Lucille Lane. That's where she lived. It was snowing. It snowed that day. The roads are plowed, and you have the windrows along the curbs. And there's my white tree spray truck parked. I got a picture of that somewhere. I have to find it. And I'm showing Mary Ann. I took her for a ride around the block. I'm sure she was impressed, right? And then I started thinking to myself, hey, I have to pay for that truck, right? It was a lot of money. And what did I do? I created a sell sheet, put on a coat and tie, and went door to door, knocking. Door knocking has a bad connotation, right? But I knocked on the doors in my own neighborhood where I delivered the papers and cut grass as a kid, and I signed up almost everybody. And I never looked back. Never looked back. I started with just me, ran my company for 10 years. We had 18 people. And it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a couple of questions now. I have a lot of questions, actually. So we'll get back to the door knocking thing. Is there any union contractors in pest control today?
I don't know that.
Me either. I've never heard of that. That was interesting.
Maybe it was a New York thing.
Yeah. Are you still in New York now?
No, I'm in Atlanta.
We're at in Atlanta.
We are in Alpharetta, which is the north suburbs. Actually, Deion Sanders used to live in this neighborhood when he played for the Falcons and the Braves.
That's awesome. My COO is from Alpharetta. That's why I know the area. That's pretty cool.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
And so you've been in the industry a long time, so I know this is a loaded question. But how much has the business of pest control changed, and how much has like the application of business changed in pest control over the last couple of decades?
Okay, when you say the application of business, what do you mean?
Like the technical side of things.
Oh, okay. You mean how we do the work?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So there's this expression, and I use expressions as themes to introduce concepts, right? So you probably have heard this: the more things change, the more they stay the same. Well, that's true and untrue. But the truth of the matter is, I usually close a lot of my presentations and things by saying, look, remember, as long as there's bugs, we'll always have a job. This career, this industry, people will say this, and I think it's true. It's recession proof. Think about it. People who have roaches are going to need us. People who have rodents are going to need us. People who have fleas and bed bugs and all these things, they're always going to need us. People who have homes that want to protect them from subterranean termites, especially down here in the Southeast, they need us. So that concept and that business fundamental stays the same. How we do the work has changed in significant ways, but has also stayed the same. And I'm not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth or be confusing. I just want everybody to understand this. It's always been true that, years ago, here I am, technical director of a good size family-run company that's an excellent company. And one of the chemical manufacturers offers me a job. And I told them no. And they were shocked. I could tell by the guy's, by the look on the guy's face when he asked me. He started talking about this great job that they had, and they would like me to fill it, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And he was like, right? But then my son Nick was born, and the whole plan with Nick was Mary Ann was working as well. She was going to drop Nick off at her friend Geraldine's house, and she was going to take care of him. And then when Mary Ann came home, she would pick up Nick on the way home. And after, I forget, maybe a month or two of that, Mary Ann called me. She was crying. You said you can still get that job with the chemical company, and that changed my whole life. Otherwise, you would have never heard of me, right? So, anyways, all that being said, the reason I'm saying this is because of this concept. I go to this first company meeting, and the name of the company was Zeneca. It used to be ICI. It was Zeneca Professional Products, and they have a big ag business as well. So we go down to this place near Tampa. It's where the Copperhead golf course is, and they play the PGA event there. And they have, there's 2,000 guys there. Most of them work for ag. The professional products that they made Demon, they made Talon, Prelude, Torpedo, and Demon TC termiticides, Demon wettable powder. Those were their big products at the time. They introduced Archer, insect growth regulator, and Demand CS. So anyways, I'm sitting there at a table of 10 guys listening to the president of this company and talk to all these guys, that work for this company. And there's this older guy, probably my age guy now, right? Turns to me and he says, and he's from the Midwest somewhere. He sells in like northern row crop, which is a big business for them. He says, just remember, son, no matter what, you got to get the bug juice to where the bugs are. And that has stayed with me now 30 years. I say it a lot, right? But it's true. So you asked, well, how do things change and why? And I'm saying they change, but they stay the same. We still have to get the bug juice where the bugs are. There's no magic. There's no shortcuts in our business. Now, have things changed? Yeah. We had the introduction of termite baits. Okay, that was a big thing. We have cockroach baits that are very good now. We have new technology, new and emerging technologies. Infrared, I think that gets underutilized. We have, the TurboTrack thing uses microwaves and other types of device of detection devices and things like that to detect live insects that we can't see. And I expect those technologies to become improved and more widespread. We have rodent traps that alert us that there's a rodent in it or there's been activity, so we can go check it instead of having to go to, let's say, a football stadium and check 2,500 stations. So those kinds of things. We have software that helps us with routing, with billing. We have AI that helps us write stuff, but I would caution everybody to be careful about that kind of thing. But what's the bottom line? The bottom line is, as long as there's bugs, we'll always have a job, right? So how we do things is not as concerning as that we do it correctly. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It was very insightful. And that's why one of the reasons I told you I wanted to bring you on is because I think that more people need to do it correctly. And there's still the old guys in our industry around our area that are spraying the whole house from top to bottom. We see it every day, So I think that the awareness needs to be put out there, Then we switch them over and they come over to our company. Well, look, why are you only spraying 2 feet up and 1 foot out? Like, well, labels the law and we can't spray your whole house. Like, well, they used to do it. They did that. Well, sorry, that's against the law. Okay,
so this predates you, I'm sure, but there was this new product came out. It was Phycam wettable powder, and Phycam was 76% active ingredient in the powder, and you mix it with water. It had no odor. Right? No odor. You put like a less than a teaspoon in a gallon of water. It had no odor. And you would go to people's house with your B&G sprayer, and they're used to baseboard spraying with like Dursban, and you could smell that, right? And the people would complain, give me the good stuff, because there's no odor. So people are resistant to technology and advancements. In fact, at Zeneca, we had Talon rodenticide, which was the world's best termiticide. Rodenticide. Sorry. Talon rodenticide was the world's best. And the technical material is highly toxic, but you look at that stuff's formulated at 0.005, 0.005%. And it had bait blocks in the little pellets. Well, I come in to work with them now. And I'm like, all these bait stations that people have around people's houses with the blocks in them, they're like ticking time bombs. What if a dog or something gets in there? And we have no activity. What if we make Talon with no toxicant in it? Just turn off the tap while we're making these blocks. Take the dye out. It had the green dye in, the blue-green dye, so that when the rodents ate the bait, you could see that. Not like their fecal pellets have the dye in it. So they were brown, and we called them census blocks. Why? You put them out. You don't have a ticking time bomb if a dog or a kid or whatever gets in a tamper-resistant station, God forbid. And then if you see that you have rodent activity feeding on that stuff, then you put the live bait in instead of having all those, potential liability situations. So that was before its time because no one bought it. No one would buy it. And the PCO's thinking is that, I still say PCO instead of PMP, right? So they're thinking, why should I do that when I'm there anyway? I might as well put the active ingredient out, right? They didn't see the liability. They didn't see the benefit. So what they started doing was saying, okay, for every case of Talon you buy, we're going to get, or maybe we'll do 1 for 1, or if you buy 10 of these, you get 1 of these free. Nobody cared. They stopped making it, and now Bell has a census block type thing.
Is that the Luminex, or is that different?
I don't think it's called Luminex. It's called something else. It just has it's just a bait block with no toxicant in it, and the rodents feed on it. So you have so how you have activity, and then you go do something, right?
I think the Luminex is the stuff that glows in the dark, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I have to look it up.
And then going back to the door-to-door thing, like I think that's how a lot of us started. Most people that are on the podcast, is literally how they started originally.
Okay, but the difference was this. Here I am knocking on doors out of necessity because I had just spent all my money, and I had some loans to pay off from family for that truck. So I made a sell sheet. But the thing is different because here I am. I'm a guy who has, I have my bachelor's of science in agriculture and entomology, and I took pest control technology under Dr. Frischman. I'm educated in this field, selling myself to these people. And so it's a different kind of door knocking. And people, and you had some people say, "Didn't you used to deliver our paper?" Yes. Okay, fine. Where do I sign? Right? So to me that was different because I had to build my business. And people talk about advertising and SEO and websites and all that kind of stuff. And we didn't have any of that. We didn't have cell phones. You were lucky to have a pager back then. I mean, we're talking about the 80s. So I knocked on doors, signed up almost my whole neighborhood. So I would say that 95% of the people who purchased tree spraying in that neighborhood were my customers, and I did it for double and even more of the price of everybody else. And why? Because if you hire, let's say XYZ company, they have maybe some high school kid or a college kid, at the end of the spray hose. In my company, you have me. I know what I'm doing, right? So what was my sales pitch was, A, I know what I'm doing. B, you know me, for many, many years, and we're going to be dependable, reliable, and blah, 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 blah. I took out one ad in my business. One. It was, remember, you guys, are you familiar with something called the Penny Saver?
No.
It was like a newspaper it was like about 8.5 by 11, like newspaper paper, and stapled together. And it was like people selling cars and stuff like that. They had some commercial ads in there, a few articles about real estate and stuff. I took a 1/4-page ad. I remember it cost $60, the only ad I ever took out. I never needed advertising, ever. And grew my company. Why? We were high quality. I knew what I was doing.
Did your name start with an A?
No.
I know because I know back then, like the higher you could get, like on the Penny Saver.
Yes. People. Well, that's in the yellow pages. People had their company was A space something pest control, AA pest control, AAA pest control. No, I didn't even have yellow pages. I didn't even have a yellow page ad. I didn't need it. And people, what's funny to me is that when I tell that story and say, look, you can see people they suspect that I'm making this up, like it's not true. I say, hey, you know what? I don't have a dog in this fight. You can believe me or not, but I lived this. This happened for me, and it underscores the fact that if you're reliable and you do good work, people come to you.
That's awesome. You're probably not too familiar with the arena of door-to-door anymore, but what's your thoughts on door-to-door from your perspective?
Okay, so door-to-door, I am familiar with the door-to-door stuff. And I'll tell you why and how. Because of the companies I've interacted with and my employment. You may not know, I was technical director at Orkin for about 3 years. And then they would hire these people, would come in. They had these teams of college-age kids. They would drive them to a neighborhood and drop them off, and they would go door knocking and sell and do service starts and all that kind of stuff. And I forget what they kind of called them a sales blitz type thing, where they come in, hey, they're targeting this neighborhood, and you know what? They have these young, good-looking, blonde hair, blue-eyed, college kids. They're co-eds and males and females.
What year is this?
Gosh, I don't know when they actually started doing it, but they were doing it when I started there. And that would be about 2004. They had been doing it for a number of years, and they did it in the summer. And those college kids would do the service start and sign those people up, right? And if they're doing quarterly service or bi-monthly service, by the end of the summer, the person doing the next service is not that same person. It's the technician that they have, and they'd have a lot of cancellations for that kind of reason. So, but yeah, door knocking's been going on a long time. And it's a good way to get customers. I think everybody will tell you that. Talking to someone eye to eye is better than having somebody answer an ad, perhaps. But if the service doesn't match what the expectations are, you're not going to retain those customers.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes you can't control what every sales guy says, right? A lot of them just want the sale and they oversell a little bit of everything. You might find this funny, but in our neighborhood, people will come knock on the doors. At the front of the neighborhood, we have one way in and one way out of this neighborhood. There's signs, no solicitation, all that stuff. They still come in and knock the doors, right? And depending on what mood I'm in, but I could tell you probably 9 times out of 10, if the guy's trying to sell pest control, I'll tell him he doesn't know who I am, right? So I'm going to say, look, let me do you a favor, but once in a while, I will let the guy tell me the whole story, right? And I don't, but if I do that, I'm stealing their time for what? For my entertainment purposes, or so that I can relate a story to my clientele and people like yourself that ask this question. But I kind of don't want to do that. Like I said, nine times out of 10, because I'm not going to be buying his service. They don't know who I am, but to hear some of the stuff that they say, I ask them how's it going and stuff like that. Once in a while, I take out one of my cockroach books or the bed bug book and sign it and hand it to the guy. And he's like, "Wait, what? You're this guy?" I go, "Yeah, look, that's this." So look, you try. It's more fun to be nice to people than it is the other way around. I agree, for sure. Especially when you're out knocking doors. It's not fun when you're under that care end of the bunch,
Especially in the summer here in Atlanta, because it's really hot and humid and miserable.
And there's a lot of companies door knocking,
Yep, there are.
So I'm going to circle back. So you had your company for 10 years. You had like 16 employees. Why did you end up selling?
Well, I could tell you this. One of the things that took the heart out of it for me was I was undercapitalized as a company, so I rented space to park my trucks. Okay. And one day we show up for work early. I mean, we work dark to dark. And that's another thing, work ethic and how hard people work is way different today than it was for myself. And I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but I mean, we work dark to dark. It's a long day. We only worked half days, 12 hours, So I'm sitting in one of the trucks, and we had a girl in the office call our customers to let them know we're coming tomorrow. And while customers thought that hey, how convenient, the primary reason I was doing that was so that they would have their check if they hadn't paid in advance. Because we're going to be there, we're doing that neighborhood that day, and tomorrow we're going to be miles away. So I need you to have your check, because if you don't pay us, we're not working, right? And we didn't have trouble with collections ever. So I'm sitting in my truck looking at the map and the stuff, and one of the guys, I think it was William, comes to the truck, and my door's open, and these trucks are high. These are big trucks, and he's down there. I'm looking down, and he says, "Paul, you need to see something." And I'm like, "What?" Because I'm kind of busy. I was doing the route for the truck he was going to drive. He says, "No, you really need to see this." I go, "Just give me a second." And he was insistent. I really need to see it. So I climbed down out of the truck, go to the back. Someone had stolen the Wisconsin engine off the back of the tree spray truck. And not only did they steal it, they used they used some kind of cutting device to cut it out. So now you did a lot of damage too. So the engine's gone. Why is that a big deal? Why? Not only is it a big deal for that engine that it's stolen, because now I have to replace the engine and get everything repaired, but our office has already called all the customers to tell them, we're coming to your house today. Everything's routed. We can't just start calling them back and saying we're not coming. So what do we do? We get the other rig, the other little 200-gallon rig, put that in the back of a pickup truck, follow the other truck. Sometimes we're fortuitous. It's fortuitous the decisions we make, and that means lucky, right? So I guess fortuitous is lucky at a higher level, if you will, like there maybe was a purpose behind your decision. I wanted to make sure that the trucks worked the same neighborhoods at the same time. We looked like my trucks were white and with blue and red pinstriping. And we had white work shirts. We looked like the ice cream ad coming down the street. So we had one truck on one side of the street doing the even numbers, the other truck on the other side of the street doing the odd numbers. And because we did that, this catastrophic event that happened to my business was like a speed bump in the road. So what we decided to do, I said, here's what we'll do. We'll use the small truck to do the trees that we could reach and skip those houses that the big truck wouldn't have to hit, and to do the shrubs and trees around the house while the big truck did the high trees. And we were able to get all the work done that day with less capacity because, we made a decision. I said, this is what we're going to do. Plus, I have all these guys. Hey, sorry, the truck, they stole the thing. You're fired. You can't do that, right? We have work to do. So that's what we did. So that, you asked why I made the decision to do that. I decided, you know what? I'm making money, but it's a struggle. It's hard. And that just, think about this. Think about in your own business. If you came to work one day and, a significant portion of your stuff, your equipment or whatever that allowed you to do work was stolen or gone or destroyed, right? What would you do? So I didn't just right then that day. That started the wheels for me, the internal wheels. What do I want to do? I got 18 people working, which is, if 18 people could be 18 headaches, right? I'm working and being as smart as I can to make these headaches as minimal as I can, which worked out for me. I was successful. But I said, you know what? I want to do things at a higher level. So at that time, my influence from my dad and his business, he bought a gas station the summer of between 5th and 6th grade for me. And I worked there all the time. And he had an accountant, the man's name was Murray Friedman. And I'll never forget, Murray showed up with his black briefcase and his Cadillac Fleetwood that he would park in the back, and he would sneak in. He didn't want anybody to see him. And he would be like, Paul, and he'd be whispering to me. And he called me to come over and talk to him like it was some important financial decision. And the question was, where are we having lunch today? And I would be like, Murray, that's not a secret, right? It's not a secret. So anyways, but I thought, what does Murray have? Equipment-wise, Murray has a calculator, and an Andy machine with a tape, and his equipment is a briefcase, and he has just him, and he makes a lot of money. And I'm like, maybe I want to be a CPA someday. So I went to school to get my MBA in accounting, and when I came out of that school, I figured, all right, you know what? I will work in accounting maybe. And the other thing that influenced me was when I was at Rentokil. I'm a technical director guy because I'm an entomologist. So I'm a guy with pest control experience. So here I am on Saturday nights killing cockroaches in Chinese restaurants in New York City, after midnight. And they're hiring MBA types over my head to manage the business and run the business. So I'm going to go get my MBA, and then maybe I'll circle back into the industry and have a better career and be worth more money. And that's what I did. I called Dr. Frischman. I said, okay, now I'm ready to come to, and he said, I got somebody that needs you. And that's how I became technical director at a company named Arrow in Lynbrook, New York. Arrow and the different Arrow. This is a family-run company up there, and they treated me so well. So that's how I went back there. That's how I got discovered by Zeneca, who hired me, and like all those steps along the way. Even though it sounds disjointed, to me, it's a linear passage of time, and one step after the other. And if I didn't take that job with the chemical company, you guys would have never heard of me.
Yeah, wow. Because I think like you asked a question like, what would we do today if we got stuff stole? Well, like now you can just go get a B&G or a backpack sprayer at the store. So it's a little bit different than replacing a whole engine and big tank sprayer, So.
Yeah, no. Well, we're talking about trucks that cost $40,000. Back then when $40,000 was worth $40,000.
Yeah. What are your thoughts between the two, between backpack sprayer versus power sprayer in 2024?
Okay, so it depends on the work you're trying to do. If someone's out there, they have acreage, or you're trying to do tick control, mosquito control, and stuff like that. You need, big equipment does big work. You can do little work with big equipment. It's hard to do it the other way around, right? So it depends on your business model and the type of service you're trying to do. Just have the right equipment to do the right job.
Yeah, I agree. Would you have changed anything different when selling the business, or would you have? I know, loaded question again, but would you have changed anything about that?
Okay, so if I could change anything, and you know what? Look, depending on where you're at in your timeline, and of course I'm on my timeline looking back at you, right?
So I do questions.
This. So I do this linear thing where I lay out 100 feet, and I'll use a rope or a tape measure, and every foot equals a year. And I'm about to be 70 in January, so I'm lucky I'm still in good shape and stuff because I still work. I don't see me ever. You
look 39, so
yeah. Well, thank you. So, but it takes work to do that, and you have to be in shape to do this work. So, what am I going to do if I retire? So I look back. If you look at this linear progression of time. And I'm all the way over here. I'm looking back at you, and you're there, and you're looking back at people that maybe you hire as employees for yourself. We've already blazed this trail, right? And I think when you see that 100 feet laid out before you, for someone like Ethan, I've had this discussion with him. I said, look, the next 4 feet of this line isn't much compared to where, 60 feet is. But what you do in this next 4 feet is going to affect the rest of that line, right? So now here I am looking back, and you're asking me would I have done anything different? And here's why it's hard to answer that question. Because as I look back on my life, I value all the experiences that I've had. And I'm successful. Right? What would I change? If that engine was never stolen from me, I would have never figured out how to adapt to something catastrophic. So how do I relate to someone who's a consulting client of mine who has gone through something catastrophic in their life? And now I'd say, look, here's how to fix this. Here's how to get ahead of this, right? Because if I've never endured those bumps and bruises, I wouldn't have the experience to teach other people. Right? And because I'm successful where I'm at, hey, you know what? Maybe I would have started being a consultant sooner because I couldn't believe that I stepped off. I stepped off a cliff twice. I'm technical director of Rent-A-Kill and resigned. I went from making a good salary and a company car and all the full benefits and stuff to nothing and beat that salary the first year. Right? And when I started as a consultant, I beat my salary in the first year again. Maybe I should have started being a consultant in the 90s. I don't know. But it also underscores the value in knowing what you're doing.
Absolutely. And that was the great transition to what you're up to today. I know you've been consulting for a while, but how did you get into consulting? What was your reason for going into consulting, and kind of to walk us through that timeline of where you're at today and what all you do today? I mean, I know because I've been to some of your stuff. So
if you ask entrepreneurs, an entrepreneurial mindset is, some of my best quotes are movie lines. So if you saw the movie Stripes, right, where where Bill Murray is, what's his name, Winger, right? He's talking to the platoon. The sergeant got injured from a grenade explosion or whatever, wasn't there to take him through the rest of basic training and graduation. And he's talking to his platoon. He says, there's something, how did we all get here? And he's like, oh, there's something wrong with us, right? Maybe we all hit our heads together or whatever. But people who are entrepreneurs like working for themselves. We like the autonomy, right? And I have that sickness. I have that illness. And I'm guessing you do too. Because that's why here we are. We like calling our own shots, right? We like the challenge of day to day calling our own shots. So, am I a good employee? Yeah, I'm a great employee. I know what I'm doing. And if you treat us well, we will deliver for you. If you treat us poorly, we're not going to be happy. So that's why.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there too. Like I was a good employee too, but again, I have a hard time working for people. And you brought up the union, and I was in the carpenters union, and I worked with people that were very skilled at their job, but they did not work hard. And yeah, I was the greenhorn of the group. So of course I had to do all the runt work, and it wasn't fun. But still, like, I outworked these people 10 to 1. And yeah, they were better. They were highly skilled. I'll give them that. But I was like, I will never.
And everybody makes the same money. Right?
Yeah, if you're at the same level, they've been there for 20 years,
And I have family members that were trying to get me to join their unions and stuff. My Uncle Henry, who's my godfather, he's my mother's brother, ex-Marine. He was an operating engineers 138. What is that? Operating engineers, they run bulldozers and stuff. And he wanted me to become a backhoe operator, because backhoe operators make the most. And he's running big D9s with rippers on it. That's a giant Caterpillar bulldozer. Yeah. And so he wants to do that. But I visited him on job sites and stuff. I don't want to do that. Then I have cousins in Hollywood that are in the Directors Guild and stuff like that. But you have to start out low. You're like a gopher guy. And I'm like, I don't want to start out low. I'm already past that level. So I like doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree. Me too. So what do you do now, Paul? And like I said, I know what you do, but for the listeners, like, I know you travel a lot, put on events, but what all do you guys do?
Okay. So one of the things that I love about what I do is every day's different. While every day could be the same, every day's different. So today I have to work. I went and I inspected this house that has bad termite issues. And it has a lot of damage, and it's a lawsuit, so I'm an expert in that case. And so that tomorrow, that case is going to be by Zoom. So I'll have these same headphones on, or the other ones that are maybe a little bit better, and I'll be testifying about what happened in that house. And what happens in these houses is largely the same. First of all, it's in the Southeast where termite pressure is really high. Not enough chemical was applied, all the places weren't treated, and the inspections were not good, and now you have damage. You have termites all the way up to the roof structure of these houses. It's nuts that continues to happen, but I have lots of cases. Let's see.
And which side are you usually hired for?
Most of the time, I'm hired by the plaintiff side, meaning the people who have the damage. And you know what? I can tell, and people are scared. Like, oh, I don't want to go into termite cases. I don't want to start doing termite work because of what you're telling us. And I will tell you this. I've never been in a case where the company has applied the right amount of termiticide and followed the label and done the work correctly. That's how they got in the case in the first place. If you don't apply the termiticide, you didn't get the bug just where the bugs are. The termites are not going to, they're not beating us because you provided no defense against them. They have an open invitation.
Have you ever had to go up against a company the people that you knew personally?
No. Look, you have to have, that I'm an ACE and a BCE. So we have a code of ethics, and I follow that strictly. But the thing is, look, if lawyers call me all the time, almost every day, and I say, tell me your story. And I say, all right, well, if the facts and the science are on your side, I can help you. If they're not, I can't help you. I'm not going to lie for anybody. The biggest case I was ever in was as an expert for the defense for the pest control company, and it was a case with lymphocytic choriomeningitis, and that is a disease that's carried by mice. And if a woman is pregnant in her first trimester, it goes transplacental and infects the developing fetus, and that child is born deaf, dumb, blind, malformed brain, and brainstem. And I think the life expectancy of someone who has that is about 25 to 30 years old. And if you've ever seen someone in a wheelchair that has like stainless steel rods holding their arms and their head up and stuff like that. So I was an expert for the defense in that case. And how could I be the expert in that case? Because that company did the right things. I'm in a couple of defense cases right now because the pest control company did the right things and they're defensible. When you don't follow the label, when you're not doing the work correctly, when your inspections of a 4,000 square foot house are less than 10 minutes, you're not defensible. You're not, and you know what? Think about this. The only people who make money in those cases, win or lose, are the attorneys. And there's like, oh yeah, we're gonna be able to defend this case and win it for you. You're not. You didn't apply the termiticide. You didn't do good inspections. You have termites all the way up to the roof structure of the house. It's not defensible. So it's sad that those things happen. It is. But that's one of the facets of things that I do. Working as a consultant with pest control companies is a lot of fun. One of the most fun things that I do is what I call end users. And what do I mean by an end user? These are people that would need and hire pest control services. Like I got to go inspect the Smithsonian because of rodents, right? And what happened there? So their biggest problem was people think it's the National Zoo, but it's the Smithsonian Zoological Park in Washington, D.C. And they had a rodent issue. So they have an in-house entomologist that's in charge of their pest control program. And she told them we need Paul Bello. So I was lucky to get called for that. I get to go to see cool stuff. So some of the stuff that I get to see behind the scenes, some of them I'm not allowed to talk about, like at theme parks and stuff. It's just really cool. I get to see cool stuff.
Do you get to take your camera with you? And you get your editor behind you?
Yes. Okay, so I have usually in my service agreement, I'll say, look, I'm going to bring my camera to take exemplary photos that I can use for training purposes and or to explain to you guys in my report, here's a condition that needs to be fixed. And I have sole possession of those photos and videos that I take, and I have permission to do it. I have been in what's described as the largest swimming pool in the world. It's owned by the U.S. Navy. It was built during World War II. It's indoors. And you know what a Quonset hut is by any chance? It's like those buildings with the round roof. Okay, so approaching on that military base, approaching that from a distance, I thought it was a Quonset hut. It's a metal roof. Except as you got closer, you could see it's concrete. It's like 8 to 10 inches thick of concrete. And then inside it is this pool. And in that pool, they built it in World War II to test ship hulls, designs, and torpedoes and stuff for the Navy. And they have made it bigger since then. And when you're standing in it, it's so long and so big, you can't see the other end, which is bizarre to think about, but that's how I describe it to myself. So, and I was there because they have termite problems. So, I get to see stuff like that. But there, you asked me about taking pictures. The local guy there would not let me take pictures there, and which is weird because I get to take pictures in those kinds of places all the time. So he wouldn't. I said, okay, fine. But yeah, so I understand it, but it makes it harder to write a report and describe, here's how come you're getting termites and here's what to fix. If I'm not going to draw a picture. I'm not a good artist. It's better to take a picture. Yeah.
Not left or right-handed. Either way, I'm bad.
Yes, exactly.
Because you were up in Grand Rapids last year, you had that pop-up event. Do you do that often, those events?
You know what? I get invited to speak everywhere. So, and I'm happy to do it if I can fit it in my calendar. So that was something that Maria organized at Pest Pros of Michigan. And I came up for that. And so you saw me there, and I covered a bunch of topics there. But it was wintertime. I remember that car ride. Tony came and picked me up at the airport. And that car ride.
We had that bad ice storm.
And it was snowing and icing at the same time. And I'm like, we were on the interstate there, and we had some occasion to go sideways. When you're sitting in the back seat, you don't want to be the front window of a vehicle, going sideways down the interstate during the snowstorm. But it's all good. I have fun doing that stuff. I think if you remember, I probably have more fun than the people that are sitting there listening to me, because
you definitely have a lot of fun.
I want it to be entertaining so that you can remember this stuff. I'm a different kind of presenter, I think, than most people.
Yeah, and can companies hire you as a consultant to come in?
Oh yeah. Yep. I have a couple that I'm scheduling right now. Actually, I go all over the country, so I'm lucky to do this.
Yeah, that's cool. What do the next 5 years look like for you then, Paul? I know you said you have your rope is one year at a time, but what does it look like? Yeah,
and okay. So thanks to Ethan, I've got a bunch of videos. We're launching this thing. This is PJB Pest Management Pro. So it's going to be a subscription website. We will have some people are asking for CEUs. I kind of like,
the industry needs it.
Well, here's the thing, though. CEUs are required to keep your license. I don't want it to be the primary reason that people attend a training course. The primary reason that people should be attending training courses are because they want to learn. They have a thirst for knowledge, and they want to increase their professionalism. So there's that. And I have plenty of people, attend my presentations, and I don't do CEUs, but on the pro page, I'm going to have to start doing some CEUs as well. But it's a lot of red tape, as you might guess, to coordinate with every state and their Department of Agriculture, or whoever the regulatory body that's doing that kind of stuff. But you know what? I follow a format for submitting those things that years ago. I mean, I've been doing presentations since the 90s, and of all the states, and I don't want to tick anybody off, but of all the states that I've worked with where I have to provide those outlines of things, I thought that Texas probably had the best format, because they require certain things. And, under the Texas method, from back then, from the 90s, I mean, you had to provide a course description, like an abstract of the course, and then the outline, and then test questions, quiz questions. So that was, comprehensive. That's a good thing. Whereas other states, you just have to provide a one-page outline. So if I follow the Texas format, I haven't had a course declined by any state. Maybe I'm giving them more than they want, but I'm conservative, so I'd rather provide a better outline or submission package than.
Yeah. Do you think people bring you in typically in the winter for training, or in the summer, or does it matter? Or are you busier?
I'm busy all the time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I mean, look, the thing about it is when is it the best time to train? And it depends on your business model and how busy you are, right? But by having an on-demand type capability through the website, let's say, hey, you have all this work planned and it's pouring down rain and you can't. Well, what do I do in the pouring down rain? When I was running my business, we went out and we did root feeding. We did stuff that we could do in the rain because, getting work done, the to-do list never ends, right? So if I could cross off some stuff and get stuff done.
We do the same thing. It starts to rain, we jump over to grub work, start working on grubs.
Exactly, because you have to get that stuff watered in, right? And how many times you apply it on a sunny day and you leave the note for the customer, oh, make sure you water this in. You don't know if they were going to water it in or not. And if it sits there on the turf, right? And it's sunny, how many sunny days in a row before they water it in? Well, UV degradation, your chemicals, not as good as it was on day one. So do it in the rain, root feedings, things like that. It's the same thing. Go all the way back to the experience I had. What do you do when one of your trucks is down? When someone stole your engine, you still got to work, still got customers, right?
Yeah, love it. I know we're running out of time here, so I'll ask you one last question. What would you tell a young entrepreneur in the pest control industry today? Some advice you'd give them.
Okay, so I'm going to go 360, but I don't want to be repetitive. But first thing, the good news is, as long as there's bugs, we'll always have a job.
Look at COVID, right?
I was busy through COVID.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, 2, the work is there for those who are willing to work. 3, social media and the keyboard gives everybody a voice, doesn't make you an expert. Doesn't make you an expert. Let's focus on what puts money in our pocket. Do the work correctly. People will beat a path to your door. You will have more work than you can handle. 4, know your numbers so you can be profitable. What about these KPIs? I need to know what's the most important KPI. Here's the most important KPI, profitability.
Know them, yeah.
Oh, you're going to grow your company to X million dollars a year, and then someone's going to come in and buy you. Well, if you're not profitable, we're not going to buy you. They're going to hire MBA type guys like me that come in and cook your books and say, you know what? This company is not. I heard someone's getting $4, 4x on a dollar. That means, they have a $2 million company going to give $8 million. Not if you're not profitable, they're not.
It's all off EBITDA, right?
Yes. And it's like, okay, be smart about what you're doing. The other thing is, unless you're me, and I don't want to sound arrogant, you don't get paid for windshield time. If I'm traveling somewhere, right? Wednesday, I have to go to Mobile. I get paid for my travel time. You guys don't. You don't get paid for windshield time. Route your routes tight. This is something that you're going to find hard to believe, but I promise you this is what we did. I could park my truck in a neighborhood with quarter-acre lots and service 6 houses at once without moving the truck. No windshield time, right? That makes you highly profitable, right? The other thing is premium service, premium price, premium profitability. People say, oh, you can't do that. You can't do it. I did it. How come you can't do it? And here's the proof that you could see in your own mind's eye, right before your very eyes. Go to a grocery store. You guys don't have. Do you have Kroger where you are? I forget.
No.
What do you have? Menards or Myers?
Yeah, Menards. Yeah, we have both. Yeah.
Which one's better?
Meyer.
Okay, so Myers a higher end store, like Publix is a higher end store down here. So you go to the Publix shopping center, you go to the Meyer shopping store, you park in the parking lot. Look at the different kinds of cars there are.
100%.
Right. There's a Toyota Prius and there's a Mercedes. So people are willing to pay more for the Mercedes, just like they're willing to pay you more if you do premium service. So if you're going to do that, that means by definition, not every customer can be your customer.
Agreed.
Think about that. I'm sitting here. I have a Lenovo ThinkPad, right? This is my new computer, and it costs a lot. Could I have bought an Acer, ACER, I guess that's how you say their name, or some other off-brand computer? Sure. It would cost a third the price, right? But I'm not going to buy that because I need a better computer because, my whole business is run out of this little machine. So we can see examples. People say, "Oh, people aren't going to pay for that." Blah 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 blah. I don't know. My life experience is different.
Yeah, mine too. I agree with you. I have lots of questions. We'll go for days, but I'll end it with this. What are you most proud of?
I'm going to give you a bunch of things because, okay, first of all, I'm proud of my family. You know, Marianne is a great mom and a great wife, and our son Nick is he's a team lead on a cardiac surgery team with Johnson & Johnson. He's a brilliant kid. He has his bachelor's and his master's in neuroscience and a master's in biomedical engineering. So I'm proud of him. My son Anthony. Anthony's work ethic. Oh my God, he started working at Publix as a guy who swept the floor, brought the carts in, or walked you out and helped put the groceries out of the cart into the trunk of your car at 14 years old. Right. So Anthony bought his first house and he was 26 years old and was promoted to director of operations of a finance company. So I'm proud of him. He reminds me of me. I mean, I started cutting grass for dollars at 8 years old in my neighborhood, pushing a lawnmower, right? Okay, so there's a sickness that we have. So I'm proud of that. I'm also proud of this thing. Let's see if you could see it. Can you see that plaque?
Yeah.
You probably can't read it. That's the Austin M. Frischman Endowment Scholarship at Purdue University. I'm the founder of that. And gosh, that plaque was dedicated January 5, 1994. That's the first presentation I did in the industry. And I went to Purdue, and there I am at the opening ceremonies and to a packed house in the auditorium room with the balcony level too. And I presented that scholarship. So that scholarship has given scholarships to entomology students up to, I think, 3 per year since 1990. Well, 1995 was the first year a scholarship was given, because 1994 it got established. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I help people pass their ACE and their BCE exam. And, you know, here's the funny thing about that. I've had people who are consulting to me about business and stuff say, oh, yeah, you should charge this much money for that. You know what? The market's not big. There's like this many people that want to take that exam. So I just do it for free, because here's how to study. And you know, whether you believe this or not, I mean, I've passed exams. Don't go to a course. You have to study. You have to know it between your ears. And I teach you how to retain stuff. I teach you how time efficient. You know how we want to be cost effective? We want to be time effective too. And annotative study is the secret to passing an exam. So I teach people that, and I do it on Facebook and stuff and otherwise. And then I sit there when people come to my business development workshop. I do that I do that on Friday afternoon. We start at about 1:30. It's a 3-hour test, and I do that for free. Another thing that I'm proud of is, it's sad to even say this, but we established a Charles Evans Memorial Award last year. Charles owns Evans Pest Control, and we were finishing up. It was Sunday afternoon. I was done with the PJB workshop at Nashville, at the Embassy Suites, Nashville, Vanderbilt. And Charles came up with his wife, Beth, and said, hey, Paul, can we take a picture? I said, sure, just let me finish. I was packing up my projector, and each piece of the projector goes in a carry case. And I said, just let me do this. He says, hey, well, you know, I just want to let you know that when I first came to one of these workshops in Clearwater, it was just me and my brother. And now we have 7 technicians, 4 people in the office plus us. And he said, and it's all thanks to you. And I said, wait a minute, I appreciate you saying that. But you're the one who did all the work. And I wasn't prepared to hear what he was going to say next. And you can tell I get emotional about this.
Yeah, I can tell, for sure.
Yeah, he says, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done it, because you inspired us. You told us how to do certain things. You answered questions on the phone and tell us how to do things. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So we took the picture and everything. I didn't know 18 days later he would suddenly die at 41 years old, leaving behind his wife and 2 young children. And so, of course, my mind going 1,000 miles an hour. What do I do? What do I do? I have to do something. So I said, I think we need to do a Charles M. Evans Memorial Award to honor his legacy and what he did, because he's the purpose I do the workshops, to teach people how to be successful in their business. And that's exemplary of what we're doing. So now we have Last year, I gave away 3 to go back to the Clearwater date because I wanted to do like 1 company per year. And then this year, we had 2 companies, and I'll mention all the names of the companies. Of course, Evans Pest Control, and Beth Evans is a rock star. And to have her stand up in front of everybody at one of these workshops, these workshops, I limited to about 45 people. And you know what? Thanks to everybody out there who comes to them. We sell out every time. I do them twice a year. She stood up and talked about her story and what happened. And then we had Marty and Cindy Jones, who are Prestige Pest Control in Pooler, Georgia, which is in Savannah. We had Bill and Angie Richter, who's One Stop Pest Control up in Ohio. This year we had Marlon Voss at Action Pest Control in New Mexico, and also Maria and Tony Sorrentino, which is Pest Pros of Michigan. And all those people are very well deserving. And I'll never forget this because we have the bartender we do the awards dinner thing on Friday night. Now we just had our second one. So it's hard to say it's an annual event when you've only done it twice, but that's what the plan is for the future in October. So the bartender gal there, she was packing up and all that stuff. And I said, is it too late to get a beer? She goes, oh no, Mr. Bello. She goes, look, I don't even know you. And I don't know all these people, but she says, you're a great speaker. But she says, I don't even know any of these people. And I was crying too. So if I could put that in a jar for people to all taste and share, the dynamic that happens at that Friday night dinner is amazing. So I'm proud of all that stuff. And it's hard. I mean, think about that question, and when we're done with this call one day, if you can look in the mirror and think, how would you answer that question? It's a really hard question to answer because there's so much stuff that you think about. Hey, I was captain of the 2009 USA Men's Hockey National Championship ice hockey team. I hate to say the over 50 division, but it was, right? And I'm like, oh my God, it took 3 years to put a team together to win that thing. And, we were playing at the lowest level. And then the next level, I'm playing against guys in the NHL. We have 0 NHL guys on our team, but we made it to the final in that level. So that was pretty cool. Hey, there's a lot, there's just so much. There's just so much, but but like if you know me and you kind of sort of do, I'm always going to be a take the high road kind of guy. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what I think. I like facts better than opinions, which is hey, if I'm telling you something, I know it's true, and it just is what it is. So I don't know what else I could tell you.
Yeah, you're a no bullshit kind of guy, and you're a great storyteller. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you do for the industry as well. Like, you're definitely up-leveling the entire industry, so appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much. This was fun.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Pest Control Millionaire. We don't charge any money for the show, obviously, but the podcast isn't free. You can pay for the podcast by sharing it with your friends and your family. So please like and subscribe and give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. These things make a huge difference for us. If you have any specific questions you want answered about the business or your life by me or my guests, send an email to info@pestcontrolmillionaire.com. And if you want to get in touch with me about any personal business coaching, check out our website at www.pestcontrolmillionaire.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you guys again on the next one.